Lu Anan was born a lucky child. The Feng family, who had been entrusted with childcare in her previous life, was blind in their eyes and heart, constantly losing money and causing her to die from setbacks. On her deathbed, she saw the only teacher in the world who cared about her struggling to give birth. Kind-hearted, she voluntarily gave up her own life, entrusted her child to the belly of Teacher Crepe, and went to the Lu family. From then on, the blessed daughter entered the home of accumulating blessings. With the blessing of her luck, her father caught up with the spring breeze of the times and became a business tycoon. Mom has become an academic powerhouse. Uncle has become a renowned figure in the medical industry. Uncle Air became a famous calligrapher. Uncle San became a popular star. Of course, none of these people have spoiled Lu Anan to the heavens. The Lu family has found that the more they spoil this little niece, the better their luck will be. Lu Anan also does not spoil and spoil, because he has witnessed his mother's suffering due to giving birth, so the more he becomes sensible and the more he feels for his mother. Lu Anan's obedient and sensible demeanor, as well as his graceful and elegant demeanor, have become the coveted object of marriage in all corners of the country. At this moment, the Feng family looked at such an excellent Lu Anan and then at their abandoned son, and couldn't help but think that they had such a sensible daughter in their own family before. If that child grows up, they should also be similar to Lu Anan. Keywords of the novel. Era little Fuwa. 3 uncles vying to spoil me without a pop-up window, era little Fuwa. 3 uncles vying to spoil me. Download the complete text. Era little Fuwa. 3 uncles vying to spoil me. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. In the next life, be a pig, a dog, and not a girl. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. In the next life, be a pig, a dog, and not a girl. What's going on? Well done. How could a person faint? In the hallway of the hospital, the Feng family is noisy. It is not accurate to say that the noise is mainly from the old lady of the Feng family, Ma Yulan. I don't know what you're doing, and I don't usually ask you to do anything. I just let you take a baby at home, and you can also bring it to the hospital. At this moment, Mrs. Feng was cursing at her own daughter.in.law. The daughter.in.law Zhang Feng there was also somewhat frightened, sitting in a chair with a stunned expression. I don't know, she threw her little brother to the ground while holding him, so I scolded her casually and asked her to stand in the snow for a while. Who knew she was just so dizzy? Grandma Gua, are you holding my son for such a young child? Feng de Bao, who was standing on the side, immediately became angry upon hearing it. I haven't let you down for a day. There's delicious food for you, but you're lazy. I'll tell you, if my son has any ups and downs, I won't end up with you. Zhang Feng, who was still in shock just now, gradually regained her senses. I just heard this and felt a little unhappy. What? Feng de Bao, what do you want to do? Which family isn't my sister taking care of my younger brother? I just let her hold me for a while. What's wrong? Are you yelling at me for such a little thing now? Don't forget, I just gave birth to a chubby kid for your Feng family. Are you going to stay with me? Let me see what's going on. Do you want your son to have no mother? Actually, Zhang Feng didn't dare to be so tough before. Especially after giving birth to their eldest daughter, the Feng family gave her a lot of face, saying that she was useless and didn't know where to lay the right egg. Isn't that right? Did you give birth to Xiao Bao a while ago? That's a chubby and white kid. The Feng family was overjoyed and named Yaozong. Now Zhang Feng's waist has straightened and her bones have become hard. Since the birth of Emperor Yaozong, he has been sitting at home and giving birth to a new baby. Her family is also used to her, as long as she takes care of Yaozong at home, she won't do anything. But she is getting lazier and lazier, not even doing things at home well. All of it was outsourced to the eldest daughter Tingting. Laundry and cook, cut pig grass to earn work, tidy up the house, and take care of my younger brother. Who knows this damn girl? She used to do these things well, why did she throw her younger brother today? Zhang Feng was also angry at the time and slapped Feng Tingting in the face. Losing money, I can't do this well. What's the use of taking it from you? It's better to die than to live and eat dry food for free. Get out of here and don't stand in front of me. She didn't expect that cheap girl to be so stubborn. Let her stand outside, she really has been standing. I was in shock when I was finally sent to the hospital. The doctor said my whole body was stiff and my skin was damaged in many places. Zhang Feng didn't feel like she had done anything wrong. She only blamed this dead girl for being so foolish and didn't know where to hide. At this very moment, the door to the operating room opened. The doctor in a white coat came out from inside. Doctor. Grandmama Guilan was the first to react and took a few steps to run to the doctor. Then lose money. The 3 words, losing money goods, were swallowed back in my mouth. How's my granddaughter doing? The patient has been rescued. The doctor took off his mask and said, the patient has been suffering from long-term malnutrition, coupled with being frozen, and her condition is very critical. Fortunately, she has a strong desire to survive, otherwise she might not have been able to be saved. The situation has basically stabilized now. The family members should settle the expenses, and then inject some nutrient solution and observe. They can be discharged from the hospital. Upon hearing the doctor's words, the Feng family finally breathed a sigh of relief. But at the moment of seeing the expense list, my sinking heart hung in suspense again. What? Mrs. Feng screamed first. Why is it so expensive to just go to the hospital? And what kind of nutrient solution is there? Isn't this a money grab? Feng de Bao glanced at the expense list and was also surprised. How much does a hospital with a black heart have to earn us? We work day and night here, saving all that money for the hospital. Just as the Feng family was cursing at the expense list, Feng Tingting was pushed out. Dad, Mom. She shouted softly, but obviously the Feng family was more interested in the expense list than she was, and no one noticed her. Feng Tingting shed a tear from the corner of her eye. Actually, when she was first sent to the hospital, she really wanted to survive. But now, she has some regrets. It's not about the cost, she just thinks that with so much money at home, her mother must be even more angry with her. She's too scared at this moment, I just heard my grandmother say. Well. Funner, why don't we just die? It's not worth it for such a girl movie. That's right, that's right. Dad also agreed beside him. Anyway, we also have Emperor Yaozong, so it's useless to keep this girl. With so much money, can't we keep it to buy delicious food for our family Emperor Yaozong? Zhang Feng didn't say anything, but from her expression, she also agreed. Feng Tingting lay in the hospital bed and could hear these words clearly. Saying it's not uncomfortable is false. My close relatives gathered together and said they would use their own money to buy delicious food for their younger brother. But she thought, this might be the best outcome. In this way, she won't have to be scolded for losing money. Mom and Dad don't have to look at her every day to get in the way. Everyone is relaxed now. Dad, Mom, goodbye. She bid farewell to her parents in her heart. In the next life, be a pig or a dog, not a girl. We can't give up. However, at this moment, the door of the ward was pushed open by someone. It's Teacher Crepe. Tingting remembers her. There is a self-operated small school in the village, which used to be a semi-old brick and tile house without a temple. Before, every morning when Tingting was cutting pigweed, she would pass by the school. She lay outside and looked inside through the cracks in the clay bricks. You can see Mr. Crepe teaching inside. She said, to establish one's heart for heaven and earth, to establish one's destiny for the people, to open up peace for all eternity, and to continue learning from the sages. She said, everyone is born equal. We were born in a new era, grew up in the spring breeze, and are the pillars of our motherland. We should study for the rise of China. Tingting couldn't quite understand these words, but she felt like they had some kind of magic. Many times, she was stunned by it. So much so that I forgot to cut pigweed and got scolded by my mother when I got home. I remember your name is Feng Tingting, right? Once, she was caught by Teacher Crepe. She was stunned in an instant, as if she had done something wrong, standing in place, feeling helpless. Teacher Crepe smiled. She smiled very gently, like the wind blowing towards the hillside in spring morning. Do you really enjoy listening to my lectures? Tingting felt a thump in her heart. Crepe. Crepe teacher, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I just became fascinated all of a sudden, and I dare not do it again in the future. It's okay. Someone likes to listen to my class, of course I am very happy, said Teacher Crepe after speaking. She also sent 2 books to her. There are paintings and pictures on it, so you can understand the meaning even if you don't recognize the characters. You can start reading in 2 years, and the teacher will teach you other things then. Reading. It seems like a very distant thing. Tingting has never mentioned the idea of reading to her family, but she knows that they will definitely not agree. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. You are the killers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. You are the killers. After his younger brother was born, his family gathered around him, saying that he would study, take college entrance exams, and become an official in the future, but no one has ever mentioned what her future reading will be like. She never dared to expect anything. She just secretly hid the book that Teacher Crepe gave her under the stove, reading and flipping through it every day while cooking, fantasizing the way I go to school. This can also be considered her only happiness. She just didn't expect to fall to the ground because she was obsessed with it. Aunt Ma, Brother Feng, I just heard what you said outside the ward. Tingting is still so young and has already been rescued. How can she give up at this time? At this moment, the teacher said. She must have heard that she came specifically to see her when she was hospitalized. Tingting, lying in bed, thought. Teacher Crepe is really kind. She is still 8 months pregnant and has traveled such a long way to see herself. Judging from her panting appearance, she must be extremely tired. This should be the first person who genuinely cares about oneself after entering the hospital. Although I am about to die, I am always happy to think that there is at least one person in this world who cares about me. Hee hee. However, at this moment, Ma Yulan, sitting on the empty hospital bed next to her, sneered. What? Do you teachers like to meddle so much? Don't give up this money, will you give it to me? This. Upon hearing this, Teacher Crepe hesitated for a moment and bit her lip. Finally, it felt like making a decision. I'll give it. I have some savings as a teacher over the years. When I go back, I will look for the village and organize my classmates to donate some money to settle the hospital expenses, she said. Tingting is really a very good girl, both sensible and intelligent. Please don't give up, okay? Teacher Crepe, if you clarify, it's not just the cost on the list. Upon hearing these words, Mrs. Feng jumped off the hospital bed. Didn't you listen to what the doctor said just now? She has been suffering from long-term malnutrition, so we need to supplement her nutrition in the future. Our daughter-in-law still needs to breastfeed. She doesn't have enough eggs and meat to eat alone. How can we share any nutritional supplements with a loser? Besides, she can't work like this. Is it difficult for our family to give her food for free and take care of her? Can you handle all of this? Teacher Crepe could tell that the Feng family was speaking loudly from the lion. I heard she was willing to pay for her medical expenses, but surprisingly asked her to give all of Tingting's future money together. Aunt Ma, after all, Tingting is from your family. I can only manage her now, I can't manage her for a lifetime. Since you know, that's all. Upon hearing these words, Mrs. Feng's face immediately changed. Since you know this girl from the Feng family, don't meddle. She is the Feng family. It's up to us to decide whether to die or live. What does it have to do with you? But she is a life, a living life, how can you? Upon hearing Feng Posey's words, Teacher Crepe couldn't hold her back. Probably too excited, her stomach suddenly tightened, and she couldn't help but frown. Feng Tingting, who was on the hospital bed, couldn't help but feel uneasy when she saw this scene. She wished she could tell Teacher Crepe not to worry about her anymore, her own body and the baby in her belly are important. But she couldn't speak. What kind of life is not life? Mrs. Feng muttered at this moment. But it's just a girl movie, a worthless girl movie. Is there still a shortage of abandoned and buried girls in the village? Our Feng family has raised her up to such a big age, which is considered worthy of her. Who can she blame if she doesn't have the courage? You go to the whole village and ask, who would be willing to spend so much money on a girl? What girl is not a girl? Teacher Crepe couldn't bear it anymore and her emotions erupted. Is the girl not human anymore? She's not bleeding from your Feng family anymore. How could you treat her like this? If she hadn't been so abused by you, would she have become like this? You are the killers. This is illegal. Teacher Crepe became more and more excited as she spoke, and her stomach also became more and more uncomfortable. She couldn't help but hold her stomach with one hand. Feng Posey was also angered by her. I think you're really interesting. What's illegal and not illegal? Since she's a member of the Feng family and a seed of the Feng family, we can either have her give birth or die. Or is it the teacher who doesn't understand this principle? What kind of teacher should someone like you be? Misidentification of children. I will go to the village office tomorrow to tell you. De Bao, hurry up and get her out of here. With a command from Mrs. Feng, Feng de Bao immediately came forward to push the teacher. You can sue if you want, but Tingting, you must not give up. She is your granddaughter and she calls you grandmother. Are you really willing to do so? Teacher Crepe still didn't give up and kept talking. Zhang Fun. Are you also going to give up? Tingting was born in October when you were pregnant, and it was the flesh that fell from you. You are a mother. Do you not even save your own biological child? You go quickly. In the chaos, Feng de Bao pushed him down hard. Ah! I only heard a scream. Teacher Crepe has been pushed to the ground. Belly. Her eyebrows furrowed and her face turned pale. And a turbid liquid had already flowed down between her legs. Doctor! Teacher Crepe shouted loudly. Not long after, all the doctors and nurses crowded into the ward, hurriedly lifting Teacher Crepe onto a stretcher. Leave only some, the amniotic fluid of the pregnant woman has broken. Pregnant women have not yet reached their due date. Contact the obstetrics and gynecology department quickly and then hurriedly left. The ward has regained its previous quietness. Only the Feng family was still in the midst of the shock for a long time without regaining consciousness. After a long time, Feng de Bao, who was standing in the same place, panicked and said, I didn't push her. As you just saw, I didn't push her. She fell down on her own. But no one answered. After a moment, Feng Posey said, hurry up. Let's go quickly. What if this woman falsely accuses us? A meddlesome woman, if she doesn't leave, she deserves it. Although she cursed so loudly, her voice couldn't stop trembling. Feng Tingting, who was on the hospital bed, was only worried about the physical condition of Teacher Crepe in her heart. I heard that Teacher Crepe and her husband worked hard for many years to conceive this baby. If it's because she's gone even if she dies, she doesn't feel at ease. She was anxious in her heart and wished she could follow up and take a look. Unexpectedly, with all his might, he truly broke free from the constraints of this body. She actually floated out and stood in mid-air, seeing her father, mother, grandmother, and herself in the ward. Is she dead? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Blessed children enter the home of accumulating blessings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Blessed children enter the home of accumulating blessings, but she couldn't control so much anymore, and followed the doctor and nurse to the delivery room on the 3rd floor. As soon as I arrived outside the delivery room, I heard the screams of the teacher inside. Ah! The voice of a nurse next to her said, "You are in pain, but don't shout for now. You need to accumulate your energy now, otherwise your energy will be depleted and it will be difficult for the child to be born. Damn it, the mother is bleeding. Maternal bleeding requires emergency blood transfusion. The child is not yet full term, I'm afraid it's dangerous." Teacher Crepe lay on the hospital bed, listening to these words clearly. "Protect your child, first protect my child," she said. This is the child that she and her husband finally came to. These days, she has been talking to the child in her belly, feeling her fetal movements. She can truly feel her existence. She can't let anything happen to her child. It's not because of her self-moved sacrifice, it's just her instinct as a mother. Tingting's heart tightened as she heard these words on the side. At this moment, she saw a small figure floating out of Teacher Crepe's belly. The little girl, naked, plump, white and tender, was rising into mid-air. She knows that this is Teacher Crepe's child. "Hello." Tingting became anxious and stopped the little baby. The little baby could hear her speak and stopped, staring at her with round eyes. "You can't leave." Tingting said, "Teacher Crepe will be sad if you leave." "But I have to go," the little baby said with a milky voice. "I left the candy in the sky, I'm going to get my candy." "But what about Teacher Crepe?" Tingting said, "Teacher Crepe is such a good person. If you leave, she will definitely be sad to death." Mom is really good." The little baby looked at the wrinkled teacher on the hospital bed, as if reluctant to part. "But I have to leave. My candy has been left in the sky. Even if I stay, I will still leave in a few days." "And you?" The little baby blinked at Tingting. "How could you be here? Did you forget to bring candy too?" "No," Tingting shook her head. "I don't know, I just looked at Teacher Crepe like this, and when I was in a hurry, I followed her." Tingting also knew that she was probably dead, but she didn't care anymore. She is only worried about Teacher Crepe now. But the little baby couldn't stay. She said, "Okay, I'll leave first." He waved his hand at her and flew up to the sky without his little butt. "Oh no, the fetal heart seems to have stopped in my stomach." At this moment, the doctor on the ground suddenly shouted out. Upon hearing these words, the already exhausted teacher on the hospital bed felt a sense of darkness before her eyes and fainted. "Quick, save the mother." The mother's heartbeat is also weakening. Tingting felt anxious as she watched this scene. Suddenly, she saw a dazzling light on Teacher Crepe's belly, as if there was some kind of gravity attracting her. She couldn't help but keep getting closer to this bright light. Getting closer at this moment, Mr. Crepe's husband, Lu Yonghua, also arrived, along with her mother-in-law's family. I just heard the sentence in the delivery room. The fetal heart has stopped. Lu Yonghua felt a sense of darkness in front of him and almost collapsed. It was still his mother-in-law Wang Xiaoping who grabbed him. Following closely is another sentence. The mother's heartbeat is also getting weaker and weaker. Wang Xiaoping lifted her son up and said, "Don't collapse yet. You can still take it after the child is gone. The most important thing now is Yaqian, who is currently in a critical period. Don't drop the chain at this time. You're a man, pick yourself up first. Yaqian still needs you." Upon hearing the sentence, "Yaqian still needs you," Lu Yonghua immediately became energized. Yes, he is a man, he must pick himself up. He still needs to be the backing of Yakian. I still have to go comfort her and take care of her. He's down now, what should Yakian do? Wow. However, at this moment, a strong cry came from inside the delivery room. Born, born. Then came the surprised voice of the nurse. I never expected that the baby would come alive. It's a miracle. Born. Born. Just now, when Lu Yonghua, who was still in despair, heard this, he still couldn't reflect it. Didn't I just say? The fetal heart stopped. Why is it giving birth again now? Is it an illusion or is he unable to accept the blow and has gone crazy? However, at this moment, the door to the delivery room had already opened, and the nurse came out with a swaddle in her arms. Congratulations, mother and daughter are safe. She is a very beautiful daughter, who is the father of the child. I am. Upon hearing these words, Lu Yonghua hurried forward. Hurry up and hug the child. The nurse handed over the swaddle. Lu Yonghua looked at the baby on the swaddling clothes but couldn't believe it. Is this my child? Nonsense, this is not your child. Whose child can it be? The mother should be angry when she hears your words, the nurse said half-jokingly. No, that's not what I meant. Lu Yonghua hurriedly explained, and his gaze was once again drawn to the pink and tender baby. He trembled and picked up the child. The child hadn't opened their eyes yet, but in the moment he hugged her, he reached out his little hand and grabbed his thumb. Tightly in an instant, Lu Yonghua didn't know what language to use to describe his current mood. He felt tears welling up in his eyes and forced himself back. I've been giving birth for so many years, and I've never seen such a beautiful baby before. It's white and tender, not like a premature baby at all, but rather a full-term baby. The nurse next to her said happily. And in such a dangerous situation, we all thought we couldn't save her. She actually survived and survived the disaster. This child's future luck is great. Yeah. My mother. Law Wang Xiaoping leaned over to look at the child, and she genuinely liked it. This child has good fortune, and our Lu family also has good fortune. It's our Lu family's good fortune. However, at the same time, Feng Tingting from another ward closed her eyes. Very quiet, so quiet that no one noticed. Because her family had already packed their things and returned to Daping village. She has said goodbye to her former parents. Now, she has new parents. 1. She really likes her parents. Blessed children enter the home of accumulating blessings. Her blessings have only begun from now on. Child, my child. As soon as Ruo Yakian opened her eyes, she searched everywhere for the child. She remembered that before she fainted, the doctor said, here. Grandma Wang Xiaoping saw the situation and quickly stuffed the swaddled baby into the arms of Creole Yakian. Yakian, your child is here. Crepe Yakian was caught off guard and collided with her daughter on the opposite side. A very beautiful girl doll, pink and tender, just born, can even open her eyes. A pair of watery eyes met her. Crepe Yakian knew that she had only met this child for the first time, but she seemed to have a special feeling, as if she had known this child for a long time. A wonderful feeling, as if the baby being held should be her delicate and elegant child. As long as you hold her, your heart will feel particularly secure. Yakian, thank you for your hard work. My mother. Law is on the side. It's okay, mother and daughter are safe. Have you decided on a name for your child? Just call it Anan, said Crepe Yakian. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. She comes to live a good life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. She comes to live a good life. She had already thought of this name in the delivery room. She knows that names represent parents' expectations of their children. But she doesn't expect her daughter to have much success and honor her ancestors. As long as she comes to her side safely, it is the best gift for herself. Anan the baby in his arms also heard this name. She likes this name. In her previous life, her name was Tingting, which means female parking. It's my mother who hopes she can bring her younger brother. In this lifetime, her name is Anan. It is my mother who hopes for her safety, health, and disaster-free. This is a name that belongs entirely to her, representing the expectations of her parents. As soon as she thinks of it, Lu Anan feels warmth from the heart. Crepe Yakian suddenly startled. Mom, did I misread? How do I feel like Anan is smiling at me? Wang Xiaoping stood next to her and said with a hint of amusement, how could a newborn baby possibly smile? Yakian, you're too tired, so you're feeling dizzy. But I really seem to have seen it. Crepe Yakian's voice is very quiet. Wang Xiaoping didn't want to argue with her at this moment, so she could only follow her and say, maybe. This child also knows that he has come to our house to live a good life. Wang Xiaoping's words are indeed true. Looking at the entire Daping village, the life of the Lu family is not bad either. Lu's father is the captain of the village, and she is willing to work herself. Her eldest son, Lu Yonghua, is only 1.8 meters tall and has a strong body. In addition, his daughter Law teaches at a village primary school and receives a salary subsidy. The whole family is not a lazy person, and of course, their lives are not bad. It's just there are too many kids at home. In addition to Lu Yonghua, there are also 3 sons below. Lu Yongjia, Lu Yongcheng, and Lu Yongsheng. The half-grown boy, who is also studying, doesn't earn much in terms of work, and his appetite is not small, which makes him look disheartened. Wang Xiaoping was also at a loss. If she hadn't wanted to fight for a girl at that time, she wouldn't have had so many children. Now is truly retribution. She has really raised enough children. Fortunately, she didn't have a daughter herself, but her daughter Law suddenly gave birth to a chubby granddaughter for her. Fragrant and soft, it looks likable. Wang Xiaoping was stunned. Still, Crepe Yakian asked beside her, Mom, where is Yonghua? Oh, he went to buy chicken soup for you. Just as Wang Xiaoping finished speaking, the door of the ward was pushed open from outside, and it was Lu Yonghua. Lu Yonghua had just returned from outside, covered in snow and wind, and stood at the door for a long time before walking to the bedside of Crepe Yakian. He held a cotton bag in his hand and opened it 3 times, revealing a large stainless steel lunch box inside. Hurry up, Yakian. I just took a taxi from the first cafeteria, it's still hot. As Lu Yonghua spoke, he lifted the lid. The whole room was filled with the aroma of chicken soup for a moment. The chicken soup these days is rare, making the mother next to her who also gave birth unable to resist swallowing. What kind of family is this? Do you still have chicken soup to drink after giving birth to a girl? Crepe Yakian spent too much energy giving birth, and now she is indeed hungry. She held her lunchbox and took several sips. Then I remembered and looked up at Wang Xiaoping. Mom, you also have some to drink. Wang Xiaoping shook her head. I don't want to drink. I just ate 2 white flour mantou. I'm full. Drink more. How much blood did a woman shed after giving birth? If she doesn't make up for it, she will eventually fall ill. Yes, yes. Lu Yonghua stood by and said, drink more, drink up, and I'll call Mom later. What are you fighting for? Wang Xiaoping beside her glared at her son. Are you getting rich? I'm doing well and I'm not losing any health. Why drink that? After finishing speaking, he also sent the child in his arms to Lu Yonghua's embrace. Hey, your own daughter, hold it for you. Lu Yonghua was taken aback at the sight of the little baby. So. Hug again. What's that? You should hug your own daughter. You'll have more time to hug her in the future. Can. Lu Yonghua unconsciously swallowed his saliva. Although I have already hugged Lu Anan once, I still feel nervous when I hug her again. He still can't fully believe that this is his child. It's not that I don't want to admit it. It's just unbelievable. At this moment, Lu Anan also stared at Lu Yonghua with a pair of eyes. This is the first time she has seen her father. It's very beautiful. He has a tall stature, thick eyebrows, a high nose bridge, a wheat-colored face, and sturdy muscles all over his body, making him a skilled farmer. In theory, with such a physique, even a wild boar weighing 200 to 300 pounds is not a problem, but why is it holding her small one, and her hands are still shaking non-stop? The father and daughter met for the first time, with big eyes facing small eyes. Lu Yonghua's face remained tense all along. At this moment, Lu Anan realized that there was a black aura on his father's forehead. It doesn't look very good. She reached out her little hand to touch her father's forehead, trying to dissipate the black aura. But her strength was too weak and her hands were not precise, so she could only slap Lu Yonghua's face randomly. Lu Yonghua could feel his daughter's tender and fleshy little hands constantly moaning on his face. My heart seems to have been hit by something. Ha finally dissipated the black air. Lu Anan breathed a sigh of relief, and now his father's forehead is shining brightly, just looking good. But why has Dad's face become increasingly ugly? Also, you should hold it. Lu Yonghua once again pushed his daughter back into his mother's hands. That. He wandered around the ward feeling uneasy, unsure of how to put his hands and feet. Scratching his head again, he said, I'll go out for a while and see if there's anything missing, and then buy some for Yakian. After finishing speaking, he walked with long legs towards the outside of the ward, leaving behind 3 people in the ward with a look on his face. Wang Xiaoping was the first to laugh. Yakian, don't argue with him. He has this virtue, but in fact, this girl is rare in his heart. Crepe Yakian smiled as she held the chicken soup in her hand. How could I not know him? If I didn't know him, I wouldn't have known him back then. Crepe Yakian said this, but she blushed with embarrassment. Yes, back then, it was Lu Yonghua who was pursued by Crepe Yakian. This even caused a lot of jokes at that time. The handsome educated youth who came down from the city said they would marry a rough man from the countryside. But Ruo Yakian seemed to have a firm heart, no matter how many people pursued her, except for Lu Yonghua, she would not marry. At that time, Lu Yonghua was also similar to what he is now. Always with a face that looked reluctant, she secretly handed over all her wealth to Crepe Yakian behind her back. After so many years of marriage, Lu Yonghua still couldn't say anything good, but he took care of all the big and small things at home and abroad alone. Even if Ruo Yakian hasn't been pregnant for several years due to her poor health, she hasn't said a word of no to her. I am also skilled at work, working 10 centimeters a day without moving. There was also a father who was the team leader above, who introduced Ruo Yakian to teach at a village primary school, so she didn't have to go down to work. Later on, the female educated youth who mocked Ruo Yakian for marrying a rough man began to envy her. Turns out she has such a poisonous eye. I knew they had also married Lu Yonghua. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. He made a great contribution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. He made a great contribution. Lu Yonghua is walking on the street here. He was thinking that Ruo Yakian was about to give birth and needed to buy some soft and comfortable bedding to sleep on so that she wouldn't have any back pain. The Chinese New Year is coming soon, so I need to pull some cloth to make a new cotton jacket for Yakian. Let's tear up the old ones and make diapers for our daughter. Oh, I also need to buy some nutritional supplements and some meat. The team will have to wait for a while before killing the pigs. Yakian has just given birth to a child and her body is already weak. She still needs to be fed, so if her nutrition doesn't keep up, it's not good. Grab him, grab him. While Lu Yongguo was calculating, a voice suddenly came to mind from behind. A person suddenly rushed up from behind and hit his shoulder hard. There are several police officers following behind that person. Are you arresting criminals? The fugitive had a long scar on his forehead and eyes, with a face full of flesh and fierce eyes, indicating that he was a very vicious and destitute person. He turned back and saw that the police behind him were about to catch up. Without much time to think, I grabbed a woman who looked weak on the roadside. Ah! The woman screamed out in a sharp voice. Don't come over. A malicious dagger hit the woman's neck. If you come over again, I'll stab her to death. The police who caught up from behind stopped and looked at each other, as if they had also made a mistake. The woman who was kidnapped had already turned pale. Don't come over, listen. Listen to him. She trembled and said to the police. The police had no choice but to take a step back. Not only the police, but also the surrounding onlookers retreated, consciously leaving a blank space for the criminals. Big brother. I only heard the soft voice of the kidnapped woman. You. Don't be impulsive. It's good to have something to say. It's easy to say. You let me go, my dad will definitely thank you well, you. Do you know who I am? Who do I care about you? I advise you to be honest, otherwise I'll stab you with a knife and it's all up to you. I'm not afraid to tell you, I've never killed anyone before. After speaking, the criminal aimed his dagger at the police again. Step back, all of you step back. He dragged the woman back as he spoke. At this moment, a huge force suddenly hugged his waist behind him. The criminal has not yet reflected and has been pinned to the ground, with the other hand holding his dagger. The criminal was shocked and regained his senses, only to see a cold man's face. He reacted quickly and turned the dagger back towards the man's face. This criminal is obviously also a trainee. If it weren't for the sudden surprise attack just now, Lu Yongguo might not have been able to contain him. As he watched the dagger thrust towards him, he couldn't dodge. Watching the cold thorns come. But a strange scene happened. The dagger was originally aimed towards his own face, but it paused 3 inches above his forehead. The dagger deviated from its direction and tilted towards the side. Lu Yongguo dodged aside and the dagger landed on his arm, leaving a bloodstain. The criminal missed the opportunity and was caught by Lu Yongguo's backhand, causing the two of them to fight each other. The woman who was kidnapped just now finally gained her freedom and quickly ran to the side. Seeing this, he shouted at the group of police officers, "What are you guys looking at? You should go up and help." The police only went up one after another when they saw the situation. Together with Lu Yongguo, they tied up the criminals. Lu Yongguo finally got off and stood on the side, letting out a heavy sigh of relief. After getting out of danger, I felt a chill in my back and started to feel scared. He didn't actually think much at the time. He just wanted to save the woman's life when he saw the situation was critical, but he didn't expect what would happen if the vicious knife just now didn't hit her. Will he never see Yaqian again, never see his newborn daughter? The more he thinks, the more afraid he becomes. After surviving the disaster, my mind was filled with the image of my wife and the little Fanny in my arms just now. So, I turned around and went back to the hospital. On this side, although the police have subdued the criminals, the woman who was kidnapped has been persistent. How on earth do you do things? How can we drive the fugitive into the crowd? If it harms the masses, can you bear this responsibility? Those police officers, however, could only lower their heads and dare not make a sound. If it weren't for someone who acted bravely, would you be able to bear the consequences of today? You should be grateful to others. The woman spoke and turned her head. Hey, where are people? I was just here, why did I turn around and disappear? I went over there just now. Someone in the crowd pointed in the direction of Lu Yongguo's departure. How did you walk so fast? I haven't thanked him well yet. the woman murmured softly. Turning around, he gave those police officers a fierce glare. You wait, this matter is not over, I will definitely tell my dad. Originally, the woman who was kidnapped was named Yang Shui. Coincidentally, she happened to be the daughter of the Municipal Political and Legal Affairs Commission. Originally, I was happy to go shopping with my little sisters. Who knew that I met such a bad thing? When she returned at night, she told her father about this matter. Dad, if it weren't for someone saving me today, I might not have been able to come back. You must report these police officers and give them a good punishment. Her father Yang Hongwei only smiled when he heard these words. You said you were saved. He diverted his daughter's attention. Yeah. Speaking of this, Yang Shui's eyes lit up and she said, that person was injured for me. I wanted to thank him well, but when I turned around, I couldn't find him. He did a good deed without leaving a name. Yang Hongwei said again. Yes, yes. Yang Shui nodded repeatedly. But Dad, you must have someone investigate and find him. It's time to find him, he has made a great contribution, Yang Hongwei said. It turns out that the gangster is really a vicious and ruthless person, with several homicide cases in his hands. Lu Yongguo's incident not only saved his daughter, but also helped solve a major case in the city. We shouldn't let heroes bury themselves in the crowd, as it will chill the hearts of the people, Yang Hongwei continued. Regarding what happened after Yang Shui returned home, Lu Yongguo naturally did not know. He returned to the hospital and as soon as he pushed the door open, he saw Crepe Yakian sitting on the hospital bed breastfeeding Anan. He smiled knowingly, and the just hanging heart suddenly fell to the ground. How did you come back? Crepe Yakian asked in surprise when she saw her husband who had gone and turned against her. As soon as I looked up, I saw the injury on his arm. What's wrong? Why did you bleed so much? It's okay. Lu Yongguo shook his head and walked over to Crepe Yakian's side. Can I hug Anan? Didn't you just stop hugging? Why did you suddenly feel like hugging again now? Ruo Yakian muttered so loudly, but still smiled and handed the child to her husband. It's nothing. Lu Yongguo looked down at his lovely daughter in his arms, feeling as if a piece of cotton had been stuffed into his heart, soft, warm and down to earth. I just suddenly feel like holding her, said Lu Yongguo. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Wild Chicken. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Wild Chicken. Due to her difficult childbirth, she stayed in the hospital for a few more days and was discharged. On the day of discharge, it snowed heavily, and Lu Yongguo borrowed a tricycle from somewhere and placed several layers of bedding on it. I put on a thick cotton jacket and a hat for Ruo Yakian, and wrapped her mouth and nose with a scarf. 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, looking from a distance, it looks like a penguin. Only in this way did Lu Yongguo relax and let Crepe Yakian sit on it. Wang Xiaoping held Anan and sat next to Ruo Yakian. Because she was afraid that Anan would be swept away, she kept blocking Anan's face with one hand. The mountain road is steep, so Lu Yongguo walked very slowly along the way. Very slowly. When we arrived at Daping village, it was already dark. Yakian, it's coming soon. How about it? Is your waist sore or not? Lu Yongguo saw the village entrance in front and turned around to say to Crepe Yakian. Crepe Yakian smiled and shook her head. You cushion so soft, how could your waist ache? Grandma Wang Xiaoping gave her son a white glance. My mother has been holding her child with old arms and legs all day, why haven't she seen him? Ask. Sure enough, my child is not suitable for staying. It's better to have a daughter, she's considerate. If she had a daughter, she would definitely care about her mother at this moment. Thinking this way, she looked at her granddaughter in her arms and became happier as she thought about it. What is that? At this moment, I heard a question from Lu Yongguo. Wang Xiaoping followed the direction pointed by Lu Yongguo's finger and saw a shadow in the dim sky, dark and unclear. Yakian, Mom, I'll go take a look. You guys are right here. As Lu Yonghua spoke, he parked his tricycle on the roadside. His hands were a bit stiff from the cold, so he rubbed them and moved forward. Not long after, Lu Yonghua returned with a joyful expression on his face. Yakian, Mom, guess what that is? It's a wild chicken. Before Wang Xiaoping and Crepe Yakian could speak, Lu Yonghua couldn't help but speak out. I don't know if I was frozen silly. Standing there motionless, I picked up a stone and smashed it to death. As he spoke, he lifted the wild chicken in his hand. Look, what a big wild chicken. This head is about the same as a domestic chicken, weighing at least 5 or 6 pounds. At present, the pigs have not been slaughtered yet, and the inventory in each house has long been exhausted. It was when there was no oil or water in his stomach that Lu Yonghua was so excited to encounter such a wild chicken. Quickly hide it. Wang Xiaoping quickly whispered when she saw the situation. If someone sees this thing, they will be asked to hand it over to the team. What else can the family get? Thinking of this, Wang Xiaoping snatched the wild chicken from Lu Yonghua's hand, glanced left and right, and then hid it under her old cotton jacket. After Lu Yonghua rode his tricycle and walked a long way out, she leaned in front of Ruo Yakian and whispered in a low voice, "It would be a pity if this wild chicken were to be handed over to the team. It would be great to take it back and boil soup for you to milk, but Mom, how could there be wild chickens in the big winter?" Crepe Yakian asked in confusion. Perhaps the plants on the mountain were frozen to death, and the wild chickens couldn't find anything to eat, so they came down the mountain, said Lu Yonghua, riding a tricycle ahead. Wang Xiaoping remained silent for a while. Suddenly, she whispered to Crepe Yakian, "Have you heard a saying? Lucky children are born with their own rice bowls." Crepe Yakian. Ha! Wang Xiaoping said, "Isn't your milk not very good? Now, when we are out of touch, it's difficult to eat meat and it's not easy to milk. This wild chicken just stands here and doesn't run when people come. Are you saying it's too coincidental? I have heard from the older generation that this is called children's happiness. You don't have to worry about how to raise a lucky child, they all come with their own bowls." Crepe Yakian. The older generation has this inexplicable concept. But she didn't argue anything with her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law is a good old man, and she usually respects her very much. So she just grinned. Hee, yes. Yes, our family is most fortunate to be safe and sound. Shaking all the way, we finally got home. Coincidentally, I met a few kids who were coming home from school. Before I could sit down, I saw 3 young uncles rushing to my room and standing at the door, eagerly looking inside. "What are you doing?" asked Crepe Yakian. "The 3 kids are like wooden stakes, look at me, I look at you." It was the second son, Lu Yongjia, who rubbed his hands. Sister Din. Law, can we hug our niece?" During the production of Crepe Yakian, Grandpa Lu Wenqi, as the captain of the team, and also reluctant to give up the opportunity, had 3 young uncles still in school, so only his mother-in-law and Lu Yonghua went to the hospital. But the news of her giving birth to a daughter was told by her mother-in-law on the phone to the village long ago. "I heard that I have added a little niece, these 3 kids are so happy. Since childhood, I have heard my mother say, having a daughter is good, and having a daughter is good. My daughter is considerate and well-behaved, fragrant and soft, much stronger than a stinky little boy." Under this concept, they also want a younger sister, but they are born without the fate of a younger sister. Is it okay to have a niece after finally having one? Take a look, what are you looking at? At this moment, a scolding sound came from behind. Lu Laohan came in from outside and knocked a cigarette stick on each of his 3 sons. "I just came back from the wild, with a chill all over my body, I just want to hug my niece. Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your face? You're all stinky, your niece is so clean and fragrant. Don't smoke her. 3 boys were trained to lower their heads. I know now, Dad. I'll go wash my hands and face now. Lu Laohan turned around and saw the 3 young men honestly heading towards the kitchen, with a successful smile on their faces. Finally, these 3 eye-catching branches were taken away. Now, no one will compete with him for his granddaughter. Yekian. He smiled pleasantly at Creole Yekian. Dad washed his hands and even went to that room to have a barbecue. Can Dad hug Anan? Sitting next to Crepe Yekian, Lu Yonghua Crepe Yekian smiled. Of course you can. Lu Laohan's face lit up with joy, and he wiped his pants with both hands before taking his granddaughter from Lu Yonghua's hands. Lu Anan has been in the hospital for a few more days. Because it is well taken care of, the skin on the face becomes increasingly tender, and the eyes can already be fully opened, dripping and round, looking even cuter than when they were first born. Plus being baked by the heating in the room, my little face turned red. At first glance, Lu Laohan felt that he was cute in his heart. Oh hey! He shouted as soon as he grabbed his hand. This is Grandpa's little granddaughter. Lu Yonghua on the side, at least his father is also the captain of the team. He usually organizes village work and goes to town meetings. In addition, he is the head of the family and a role model for his 4 sons below him. He has always been meticulous in his laughter. When did this happen? He has seen it for the first time. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. You should be good to your niece. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. You should be good to your niece. Wang Xiaoping started dealing with the wild chicken as soon as she got home. She was very careful, closing the kitchen door tightly and skillfully killing chickens, plucking feathers, and bleeding. I can't bear to eat all of them at once. Fortunately, it's winter now and things are not easy to break. The remaining half is placed in a jar and covered with a dustpan. Afraid that others might discover it, they cleaned up the chicken feathers and blood inside the house. Then I chopped the other half into pieces, fried it in lard, and made soup. She kept it all quiet until dinner. When her 3 sons were eating at the table, they realized that each person had half a bowl of chicken soup and 2 pieces of chicken. Where did you get the meat? The younger son Lu Yongsheng's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but ask in surprise. The next second, he received a slap on the head. Shout, shout, shout louder, call the neighbors over to eat chicken. Lu Yongsheng. It's the wild chicken I picked up on the way back today, Lu Yonghua said on the sidelines. Wang Xiaoping ignored and quickly stuffed a large bowl of chicken soup into Lu Yonghua's hand, saying, send this to your daughter. In law. People who are giving birth cannot have a dry day, so Crepe Yekian always eats inside the house. The 3 boys stretched their necks and saw a large bowl of chicken soup filled with chicken. Wang Xiaoping turned around and glared at her 3 sons. What are you looking at? Your sister. In law is currently in confinement and needs to breastfeed. She eats 2 people's meals alone. I'll give her more. Do you have any objections? The 3 boys shook their heads together into a tambourine. They just took an extra look. How dare they have any objections? Although they all said they had no objections, Wang Xiaoping was still afraid that the 3 boys would think too much and think that her mother's bowl of water was not even. Sitting back at the table, he said earnestly, Mom is not that kind of eccentric person either. But you know, over the years, the 3 brothers have been studying, and how can we rely solely on me and your father's income? Your sister. In law and brother have provided a lot of subsidies, both openly and secretly. If it weren't for your sister. In law's salary and your brother's 10 centimeters a day, where would there be your books to read? It is said that the eldest sister. In law is like a mother, and your sister. In law has never treated you as outsiders. Now she has a child. You should remember this situation. Please let Anan know more and treat Anan well, don't you? The 3 boys nodded repeatedly upon hearing this. Not to mention anything else, my sister. In law really has nothing to say to them. If it were another family with so many brothers, whose house wouldn't be full of chickens and dogs when my sister.in.law enters. Their sister.in.law, on the other hand, uses her own salary to support their education, wash clothes, and buy stationery for them, besides. However, just as the three boys were grateful for their sister.in.law's kindness, Wang Xiaoping's words changed. I can have chicken tonight, but it's all thanks to your niece. I tell you, your niece is a lucky child. Otherwise, if you think about it, how could such a good thing be that the chicken just stood still in front of your brother's tricycle and smashed it to death with just one stone? Can you eat chicken without your niece? Now one person can have 2 pieces, be content 3 brothers. What theory is this, their mother? No one can rely on that newborn baby to eat this chicken. Mom, I think. The second son, Lu Yongjia, felt absurd and immediately wanted to refute it. He is currently in high school and has good academic performance, but he is extremely serious and a staunch materialist. If he feels something is wrong, he needs to correct it. I think Mom is right. However, as soon as the Lu Yongjia spoke up, he was snatched over by Lu Yongchang. Mom makes sense. Although I haven't hugged Anan yet, just as I stood at the door and looked at her, I felt that Anan was fortunate. Mom, I don't want my chicken anymore. Give it all to my sister.in.law. I am strong and strong, so it's not very useful to eat this. It's important to give my sister.in.law more milk for Anan. As soon as Lu Yongjia finished speaking, Wang Xiaoping immediately smiled happily. I knew that the third kid was the smartest. However, your sister.in.law's chicken is already enough to eat. It's not lacking these 2 pieces for you. Reading takes your brain and you also need to supplement your nutrition. Come on, Mom will give you these 2 pieces as well. Wang Xiaoping said and handed the chicken from her own bowl to the Lu Yongjia. The other 2 looked at each other. Lu Yongjia obediently and cleverly shouted, "Thank you, Mom." Lowering his head, he quietly grinned. His older brother and younger brother are so stupid they couldn't tell that although Mom said she wasn't biased, she was actually biased towards her granddaughter. Being able to make such absurd statements shows the status of Anan in my mother's heart. Everyone can tell that anyone who treats Anan well now can please their mother. A fool went to correct her. That night, the Lu Yong family happily ate 4 pieces of chicken alone. Although the other 2 were shocked by his actions, they happily ate their own portion. After all, it's not easy to eat meat and fish these days. Plus, we're all half-grown kids with no oil or water in our stomachs, and we haven't had enough to eat every day. Not to mention eating chicken, drinking a bowl of chicken soup is also good. Paired with 2 steamed buns, it always has a fragrant chicken flavor in my dreams at night. The next day, every household in Daping village knew that the Lu family had added a new daughter. Mainly because when Mr. Lu started working, he couldn't help but smile while carrying a hoe. The person next to him couldn't help but joke, "Captain, why is it happier to have a granddaughter in your family than to have a kid?" Lu's father sneered and said, "What's good about a kid? What I don't lack the most is a kid. A girl is good, well-behaved, and considerate." The person next to him laughed and said, "You see, you like that kind of energy. Are you afraid you'll have to hire a son.in.law for your granddaughter in the future?" Mr. Lu hasn't thought so far yet, but when someone mentions it, he thinks it's feasible. Someone asked, "When will you take your granddaughter out and take a look? I see that your daughter.in.law looks so good. She should be very beautiful to have a daughter, right?" Of course it's beautiful. He dares to say that he can't find such a beautiful child in 10 miles and 8 villages. Upon being reminded of this, Mr. Lu's mind was stirred. At noon, I begged the old lady to take my granddaughter out and show it to everyone in the afternoon. He feels uncomfortable not holding such a beautiful granddaughter out to show off. Wang Xiaoping couldn't resist him either, so she went to discuss with Ruo Yaqian. Of course, Crepe Yaqian has no objections. This child doesn't look like she's locked in the house every day. It's sunny outside today, so it's good to go out and sunbathe. Anyway, it's from the same village, you can see it sooner or later. Can you still keep covering up without seeing anyone? Wang Xiaoping got permission and carried Anan to the ground in the afternoon. That afternoon, Wang Xiaoping received the most praise in her life. Oh, it's really beautiful. This child looks like her mother. Look, it's so white. It doesn't look like our rural children at all, and the watercolor is even better than the city children. I've never seen such a beautiful baby in all these years. Wang Xiaoping was naturally happy in her heart, but she still felt embarrassed to show it too clearly, trying to hold back the raised corners of her mouth. But as soon as I turned my head, I saw my old man's face laughing uncontrollably. That's not it, why not say it's my granddaughter? Indeed, she is like my daughter.in.law. My daughter.in.law is so beautiful, where can my granddaughter be so poor? Wang Xiaoping. The Feng family's eyes occasionally glanced towards this side. Because of their previous unhappiness, they were also embarrassed to come together. Mrs. Feng's eyes rolled up to the sky. Hello, Captain, are you still working today? Ma Yulan raised her voice and disrupted the lively scene. End of this chapter. Chapter 8, She didn't mean to mislead us, did she? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, She didn't mean to mislead us, did she? Wang Xiaoping could only take Anan back and then return to work. This afternoon, Mrs. Feng has been working absent-mindedly and doesn't know what she's thinking. Going back for dinner at night, I even feel drowsy eating. After drinking a mouthful of wild vegetable congee, he looked up and saw Feng de Bao holding a baby while Zhang Feng was still eating well there. At that moment, he was furious. What are you doing? How can you make your man hold the baby? He's been tired all day, don't you know? You are his mother.in.law, and you don't know how to feel sorry for him. Zhang Feng took a bite of the clump on her hand and glanced at Ma Yulan. Mom, there's nothing I can do. I have to eat, and I have to breastfeed Yaozong. If I don't eat enough, Yaozong won't be able to eat enough. Ma Yulan. She felt like a ball of cotton was stuck in her heart. Before, when eating, it was her granddaughter Tingting holding Yaozong on the side. After everyone had finished eating, she went to the stove to eat leftover food. Now that Tingting is not here, it's really inconvenient to be anywhere. Look at this room, where does it look like people live? It's like a pig's nest. The wife here is really lazy enough. The food is not cooked well either. Look at this steamed bun, what does it look like? She didn't understand why it was so difficult for Zhang Feng to do something that a 5-year-old child could do well. Unfortunately, she couldn't say anything about it. When she said a few words about her, she would use Yaozong as a pretext. Thanks to being an old lady, at an old age, she came back from a day's work and had to drag her old arms and legs to tidy up the house and wash the clothes of the whole family. She sometimes really misses that loser from before. If it weren't for my grandson. Ma Yulan glanced at the chubby boy in Feng de Bao's hand and breathed a sigh of relief. Forget it, she endured it. Anyway, she has a grandson now. I don't know what the Lu family is enjoying there, are you sick? Such a rare girl. She said subconsciously when she saw her grandson. Zhang Feng also pounced. Who knows? That family is all mentally abnormal. Look at their daughter.in.law. Last time she came to the hospital, she made a scene and even talked about murderers and maids who shed blood from the Feng family. How can a girl be the same? In the future, when we get married, we won't be surnamed Feng. Isn't that right? Zhang Feng said so much, only this sentence that Ma Yulan most agrees with. I don't know what the daughter.in.law of the Lu family is up to. She fell so badly in the hospital, made such a serious appearance, and even said she was born prematurely. I don't think that child is born prematurely at all. Mom, do you think she didn't mean to mislead us? Zhang Fen asked as she fed her son a bite of meat. Every night at home, she and her son cook 2 pieces of cured meat. As for the others, I haven't had any meat in half a year. Yeah. Ma Yulan slapped her thigh. What did you say she wanted? The girl is not related to her, and she came specifically to the hospital. She almost dropped the child. I think she deliberately wanted to blackmail us a lot. Hee, it's still the teacher. Why is your mind so crooked? The more Ma Yulan thought about it, the more she felt that the truth of the matter was like this. In the evening, after having dinner, the family got up early to save on kerosene. Ma Yulan, however, was so sore that she tossed and turned that she couldn't sleep. The old man next to him slept very fast, and soon his snoring sounded like thunder. Ma Yulan opened her eyes and became increasingly angry as she thought about the snoring. Her granddaughter is gone, causing her to suffer so much now. However, the Lu family has added a granddaughter, and the whole family is happy. Why? Why? She's not willing. This daughter-in-law of the Lu family has a crooked mind. Why can she still be a teacher of education? Ma Yulan stayed up all night and went to the town early the next morning. The next afternoon, while Lu's father was working in the field, someone came to the town and took him away, saying he wanted to investigate something. I didn't come back even after dark. The Lu family seemed to have a premonition that something was about to happen, and the whole family waited anxiously without even having dinner. It wasn't until it was completely dark that the sound of Mr. Lu's bicycle could be heard outside the yard. The whole family quickly gathered around and cared about him going to town. It was not until midnight that Wang Xiaoping brought Crepe Yaqian's dinner to her room. Are you starving? There's something delayed today. Wang Xiaoping placed the rice on the small table while speaking, and leaned her head to look at her granddaughter. Anan has fallen asleep, covered a small blanket, raised her hands above her head, and occasionally sucked on her small mouth, as if she was breastfeeding in a dream, not to mention how cute it was. Mom, what happened? What's Dad doing in town? Crepe Yaqian asked anxiously. It's nothing. Hi, your dad has to go to town every 2 or 3 days. What can I do for him? Don't worry too much, just sit back and have a peaceful confinement. Oh, by the way, this is for you. Wang Xiaoping spoke as if she suddenly remembered something and took out a few dried dates from her pocket. This is given to you by the 4th kid. He heard that red dates can nourish blood and milk, but he doesn't know where he got it from. It's a part of the child's heart. You can sit at home after giving birth and use it to touch your mouth when you have nothing to do. Crepe Yaqian looked at the few dates, but became more and more worried. Mom, she shouted. I am giving birth, not blind. My family is like this today, and I am not blind. What the hell is going on? Why are you keeping it from me? I am also a member of the Lu family. I have never considered myself an outsider. Why do my family leave me behind when something happens? Wang Xiaoping listened to her daughter-in-law's words and paused for a moment. After a moment of silence, she suddenly let out a sigh. Sigh. Actually, I couldn't hide this from you. I thought you shouldn't worry about it now, so I thought I would tell you after you finished giving birth. But since you've already asked this question, I'm not afraid to tell you everything. Wang Xiaoping spoke and sat by the bedside of Crepe Yaqian. The more she heard her say this, the more her heart became suspended. You work at the village primary school. Didn't your father introduce you to it before? You know, there have always been documents above that say we need to develop rural education, say we need to rebuild a new primary school, and assign 2 teachers. The village also has a target for becoming a full-time employee. Your father-in-law has been dealing with this matter recently. You had a good chance of becoming a full-time employee. Crepe Yaqian held the corner of the quilt in one hand and listened attentively to her mother-in-law's words, nodding her head in a daze. But now, we have received a report from the public that your father-in-law used his power for personal gain and used his position as the team leader to make you a teacher. And you also said that your character is not upright, not worthy of being a teacher. Today, I called your father.in.law to the town for investigation. As for the follow-up, we still need to wait for further investigation. The village should hold a meeting tomorrow to report on this matter. What will be the outcome and whether it will affect your father.in.law's work? Also, I don't know. What? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Let's fight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Let's fight. Crepe Yakian suddenly tightened her grip on the corner. How? How could this be? She doesn't understand. I have been teaching books for such a long time, and no one has ever said anything about it. Not only students but also their parents love me very much. How could it suddenly? Someone intentionally caused trouble. Wang Xiaoping breathed a sigh of relief and said, although this report was anonymous, according to the official records, only the old lady Ma Yulan from the Feng family took leave today, and someone saw her go to the town. That's what the people in town said when they came down. As a teacher, you used your power to suppress others, meddled in others' private affairs, and killed their granddaughter. What? The more she listened, the more her heart trembled. What does it mean I caused death? They almost caused me to have a miscarriage, and I didn't care. How could they accuse me first? Crepe Yakian's anger started from her heart, but after being angry, she felt guilty again. She looked at Wang Xiaoping and shouted. Mom! I'm sorry. She lowered her head and her eyes were already red. I didn't think so much. At that time, I was all focused on saving Tingting, and I didn't expect that the family would be so evil and turn the tables. And it also implicated Dad's work. I knew it was like this. What are you talking nonsense about? Wang Xiaoping saw that her daughter.in.law's tears could no longer cover her, so she immediately interrupted her words. What is implicated? How can a family have anything that is not implicated? Besides, how did the Feng family treat their granddaughter at that time? Who in the village didn't know? Don't say it's you. If I had seen it at the time, I wouldn't have ignored it. That little girl didn't take it seriously when she was alive, but now that she's dead, they're just a treasure, that's what she said, but Roa Yakian still couldn't resist her guilt. Wang Xiaoping is anxious. You see, I'll just say I won't tell you. Why do postpartum confinement people cry? Don't think so much, isn't the matter at that point yet. Isn't it necessary for the authorities to investigate? Then let him investigate. Come to the village and ask, you teach so well. Who dares to say no? The demeanor of the Feng family is seen by everyone in the village. Everyone has a sense of righteousness and freedom in their hearts. What are you afraid of? Although she knew that things were not that simple, Wang Xiaoping could only comfort her daughter.in.law so much. Crepe Yakian has always had a simple mind, and when her mother.in.law says so, she truly believes it. My mood has finally improved. Thank you, Mom. She looked at Wang Xiaoping and said sincerely. Family, why are you thanking me so much? Wang Xiaoping paused for a moment, then breathed a sigh of relief and said, Boss, I think starting from next month, you and Yonghua should not hand in all the earned centimeters. You only need to submit your household portion every month. How about that? We used to submit it every month. Previously, it was before. Now, don't you have an? Besides, you don't have a job now, and in the future, you will have to bring an into the ground. You won't earn much in centimeters. It's not a big deal for your family of 3, but if you still support those kids, it won't work. But what will the Yong family do if we don't submit it? Asked Crepe Yakian. After all, the appetites of a few guys, big and small, are really scary. They are no longer big or small, and they can no longer eat dry food for free. In the past, only the Yong family worked alone, but now Yongchang and Yongsheng have grown up and should also work. Before going to school every day, go and hunt for pigsty. After school, do some work and earn 2 centimeters, which is also good. Besides, there are ways to use thick and rare. The couple in the village earn money, but there are many who pull a big family around, and no one starves to death. You and Yonghua now have their own small family, and they can't rely on their brothers and sister. Law all the time. You still have to plan for Anan in the future, don't you? Girls and boys are different. You can live anywhere, kid. Girl, you need to plan more for her, otherwise you will suffer injustice in the future. Originally, Roa Yakian wanted to say something more, but when she heard Wang Xiaoping's words, she hesitated. Yes, she has to consider her daughter. People are selfish, and she never complained about helping a few uncles before. But she has her own child now, who doesn't want her child to have a good life. No one is a saint, sacrificing the quality of life of their own children to help others. That evening, Wang Xiaoping announced this matter to her sons. A few sons certainly have no objections. Brother and sister in law have already helped enough, and they don't have the audacity to even take up their own niece's share. This matter is so settled. Yuan Benrue Yakian was uneasy about the report, and with the comfort of her mother. In law, her heart was somewhat relaxed. Finally, a big stone landed. However, while Crepe Yakian's side had just been peaceful, her mother. In law's side was no longer peaceful. At dusk, Aunt Zhou from the neighboring house suddenly burst in. Hurry up. Go ahead, your mother is fighting with someone. What? Lu Yonghua was chopping firewood at home when he heard these words. He threw the axe in his hand and stood up. After giving birth, Lu Yonghua only worked half a day to take care of his daughter and daughter. In law. He went out in the morning and didn't go to the ground again in the afternoon. At this moment, after listening to Aunt Zhou's words, she put down her axe and headed towards the ground. The Lu Yongjia, Lu Yongchang, and Lu Yongsheng have already gone on winter vacation and are also working in the fields. When they heard the news, they quickly left their guys behind and followed their brother. In winter, there was originally little work to do, so according to the plan, we had to prepare the ground. Coincidentally, Wang Xiaoping and Feng's wife have been allocated a piece of land. Wang Xiaoping sneered. Feng Lealazi was actually good. She walked over with a hoe on her shoulder and deliberately slammed it onto Wang Xiaoping's shoulder. That's all for it. Mrs. Feng still insists on being strong everywhere, picking on the smooth and easy work. When calculating the centimeters, she even says, I did it, or, I did it too. Wang Xiaoping couldn't help it anymore. Throw the hoe into the ground with a loud bang. Are you finished yet? What does it mean, there's no end? Why? Do you have to rely on your man as the captain, and you even have to take up more centimeters? Wang Xiaoping. Do you mean to say that? Why are you sorry? You said, did you go to the town to sue our family? Where did I make a mistake? Mrs. Feng didn't feel guilty, but instead straightened her shoulders. Her figure was full, and this thrust made the front 2 lumps very eye-catching. Your family has always gone through the back door. Your daughter. In law came to the hospital to meddle in our affairs. Who knows what ends thinking? Fortunately, we ran fast, otherwise we would have been misled by you. How is such a person worthy of being a teacher? So wicked, I deserve to have a girl movie. Wang Xiaoping was originally somewhat rational. As soon as she heard old lady Feng mention that her granddaughter was pregnant, her blood surged. She walked forward and slapped old lady Feng in the face. Old thing, who are you talking about? End of this chapter. Chapter 10. You made great achievements. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. You made great achievements. Mrs. Feng was slapped on the head like this. She's not fuel. Efficient, how could she just be beaten for nothing? I'll just scold you, what's wrong? As he spoke, he stepped forward and grabbed Wang Xiaoping's hair, saying, "You wicked thing, you should give birth to a girl. You will never have a son in your lifetime. You deserve it, you deserve it." Upon hearing these words, Wang Xiaoping did not show weakness and grabbed Feng Lealeazi's face with both hands. By the time Lu Yonghua and his team arrived, the two had already been fighting together. Wang Xiaoping's strength was even stronger, but she was scolded by old lady Feng a few words and her eyes turned red. She made a fierce move and now she completely had the upper hand. She sat on old lady Feng's body, slapping her face with a big slap. Scratched several bloodstains on her face. "Mom! Mom!" Lu Yonghua and his team just shouted, and Feng Debao and Feng Lao also arrived over there. Feng Debao saw the situation and quickly went to pull it. But Wang Xiaoping sat on Feng Lealeazi and shouted, "Yonghua, Yongjia, hurry up. This old man dares to scold your niece. We must teach her a good lesson today." What? Originally, except for Lu Yonghua, the other three kids in the family were all scholars, and they didn't like to argue and fight like the others in the village. I was originally planning to separate the two old ladies, but as soon as I heard Wang Xiaoping's words, I couldn't sit still anymore. What is the relationship between adult grievances and children? Anan is so young, what can she understand? Is it a bit excessive to involve her? As soon as they thought of this person, the four of them rushed into the ground with great momentum, blocking in front of old Feng and Feng Debao. Originally, Feng Debao wanted to help old lady Feng, but now he saw the posture on the other side and immediately withdrew his aura. I shrunk my head, hesitated. Just kidding, the four sons of the Lu family, the youngest of whom is already 10 years old, are all tall and tall. Standing there, who in the village dares to say they are not afraid? Wang Xiaoping saw the situation and took the opportunity to hit Feng Laozi in the face with a few big ear scrapers. She actually doesn't want her son to be involved. After all, fighting between two village women is a common occurrence, and bringing others in is another matter. Moreover, the man in his family is the captain, and his son is also a scholar. Except for herself, everyone in the family is shameless. Besides, I have the upper hand. Who is she, Wang Xiaoping? A woman with a big arm and a round waist, who wants to take 10 centimeters from the ground, is someone like Mrs. Feng who is sneaky and slippery. As long as there is support from behind, it is enough. Wang Xiaoping swung her arm and beat Feng Lealeazi hard a few times. Mrs. Feng couldn't bear the beating anymore and shouted, "Hey hey," and "Hey hey. Debao, what are you doing? Come and help me quickly." Feng Debao shrunk his neck. Feng Lealeazi looked at that and let out a sigh of anger. Feng Debao. Can't you see your mother being bullied? Take action. Mom. Feng Debao shouted. They have a lot of people, Juan. What if they beat me up? I'm your only son, and if I have some problems, you won't have a son. Upon hearing these words, Mrs. Feng almost fainted with anger in her white eyes. Why do we have to have a son in the village? A large part of the reason is that there is someone to support when being bullied. Feng Lealeazi gave birth to 3 maids in front of her, and finally obtained such a son. It was a headache to hold him in her palm, squeezing out 3 sisters and providing for such a son. What is the result? At critical moments, there was no use assigned. It's better not to have a son on this side. Wang Xiaoping finally got tired from the fight and relaxed her hand, sitting on the side. In the winter, she was sweating profusely and casually wiped her forehead. Mrs. Feng finally got rid of herself, but her whole body was sore and she struggled to stand up, and her whole body was unsteady. Feng Debao saw the situation and quickly stepped forward to help her. Mom, are you okay? Look. Do you think it's okay? Feng Lealeazi had just spoken, and before she could say this, she suddenly felt a warm sensation under her nose. When she touched it, her hands were covered in blood. This Wang Xiaoping is really ruthless. You. Mrs. Feng looked at Wang Xiaoping and was about to say something when she suddenly saw a group of people coming from afar. There were about 7 or 8 people walking along, talking and talking, all dressed neatly, and they didn't seem like villagers at first glance. "Excuse me, is this Daping village?" The leader came forward to ask when he saw a crowd of people gathering here. It happened to be the afternoon, before it was time to get off work. They walked all the way, but didn't see anyone in the field. It turned out they were all here watching the excitement. The person being asked was Aunt Jiang from Shitsuan, who nodded in confusion. Yes. Aunt Jiang is a woman who doesn't like to go out and around, so she can't recognize people. But some sharp-eyed people in the crowd noticed that the person walking at the forefront seemed to be the leader of the town. "May I ask where the Wang Yonghua family is?" the person asked again. "What can I do for you?" Wang Yonghua heard his name in the crowd and walked out. "Are you Wang Yonghua?" The person in charge immediately became excited when they saw him. I took a few steps forward and grabbed his hand. "Comrade, we've been looking for you for a long time, do you know?" "Find me?" Wang Yonghua is completely confused. "Why are you looking for me? You have made great contributions. Make great achievements." That person may have been too excited, their voice was loud, and everyone heard it. Wang Yonghua actually made contributions. What achievements have been made? Isn't his mother law only giving birth a while ago? She's been in the village these days, and even the ground has been reduced. Where can he go and make contributions? Whispering voices came from the crowd. But the person continued, "Didn't you assist the police in catching someone a while ago? That person is a death row inmate who has been arrested in the city for a long time, carrying several homicide cases on his back. And the woman you saved is also the daughter of the city's political and legal commissar. You are a hero of the people. Director Yang specifically instructed us to find you and repay you well." What? Lu Yonghua has become a hero of the people. The crowd exploded again. At this very moment, Mr. Lu arrived. Mr. Lu didn't come down today, but went to the village office. When he heard that his own woman was fighting with someone else, he hurried over. Coincidentally, I stumbled upon this scene. Mayor Zhao. As soon as Lu Dad saw the person in charge, he shouted out. "What? That person is actually the mayor of our Chongping town. I said that person looks so familiar. Lu Wenqi is the team leader and often goes to town meetings. He said this person is the mayor, so he must be the mayor." Upon hearing these words, the onlookers were about to shatter their 3 views. End of this chapter.